Hello.
I don't know what to say, man.
I know what to say, and I just don't want YouTube to kill our show here, to cancel our show, and not let us get back on the air. All right, so that's what I want to say. Um, let's just start off first. By the way, welcome to the post race show here on Hitting the Apex.
All right, so let's
first of all, before we get anything started, how the hell does this happen? Where this only happens to Max Verstappen? Okay,
wait, hold on. Let's start before you go in on this. Gus, our buddy Gus, who made a cameo on Wednesday shows in the chat, and I will say, before we go into Ferrari doing Ferrari things, hell of a drive for Max out of 10th there. If you recall, like that first stint is where he had to make the ground up, and he easily got past the Alpines, who Alonso's a pain to pass. He got past him easily, so he didn't fall too far back.
Guess what tires they were on?
That's later when they went on hards. That was later. But if you notice where Checo finished, that's where Max was right in front of him to start the race. It's a 5-driver gap. So credit to Max. With that said, floor is yours to try and explain what Ferrari did.
First of all, going back to Max. Max is the only damn driver ever in the sport, ever in the history of Formula One, that can spin out, do a pirouette, and keep freaking going. And not lose anything, because at the end of the day, he ended up overtaking Leclerc again after that, right?
Yeah, and that just shows how bad the hard tires were, that he was just like, oh, no problem, I'll just make this ground back up and overtake him again easily.
And listen, shout out to Max. He had a hell of a drive. Again, yes, for me, talking, on Wednesday, it's going to be hard for me to choose who driver of the day is. It's either Max or Lewis Hamilton for me, because they both drove absolutely brilliantly. However, it's just funny, right? Like, obviously, I'm being facetious. Him doing a pirouette, spinning out, really not damaging the tires much, but when he spun out, he did a 360, ended up right back, and just kept going. It's not how everybody else is spinning out, going into the wall. Yuki Tsunoda had to kind of drift back, right? He had to kind of no, that doesn't happen to Max. Max does not crash. Max does not spin out into the wall or into the gravel. He spins out right on track and does a 360 and keeps going, right? And that's just, it's unbelievable to me. A little unbelievable to me. However, yeah,
this race is about Ferrari strategy, though.
That's really what it is. You said it, Vish. The incompetence on that team, the lack of, it's so frustrating for you to be in a spot to win the race, to have both drivers on the podium, and you screw up both of their strategies.
I'll say this. Their first, they made 5 or 6 mistakes.
At least. It's ridiculous.
But their initial mistake was worrying about covering off the people that started on soft tires. They're on a different strategy. So when they went and pit, they saw Max come out on softs, go faster, so they were going to get undercut.
Right.
And they both dove into the pits. No, there was life left in those mediums for the first stint. Run your race strategy. Whatever's optimal, it'll go faster by the end of the race. And once they got into that, then because they had medium, you can't go medium.
Right.
And then they make the same mistake again, trying to cover off Max. And it's, what are you, just run your race.
They just care too much about what everybody else is doing and not running their race. Exactly.
Right, because they had the advantage on Russell, who started on softs, and they pitted right with him and then ended up right behind him anyway. And they could have just stayed long on that first stint. Yeah, the gap would have been close and they each would have had to pit again, but then the race would have come to them, right? Because you would have had a faster, fresher tire at the end of the race. So instead of doing that, they tried to cover right off that first stint. They went very short on those mediums. They went 16, 17 laps on their mediums to start. That's not enough. Because and they still got undercut by Russell anyway. I don't understand what they were doing there. And then once they go medium, they have to pit again, and it has to be a different compound. So that since
Yeah.
they pitted in lockstep with
But
the
they
people
pitted
that
too
start on
early.
soft, they pitted in lockstep with the people that start on softs, which is Max and Russell, primarily Checo as well, but Checo was not really in play. They then, when Max pits to undercut them, if they have a choice, then go on to the hards, which we'll talk about in a second, which is what obviously they did with Leclerc, or just say F the track position. These mediums are working well. We're going to run longer, and then we're going to finish the race on a soft tire. And they went for the track position and blew it, but those were not good options from where they currently stood. But they blew it at the front of the race. You're in control. Why are you worried about someone undercutting you?
Right. And here's my thing, right? And it's going back to what you're saying. Why are you following the same strategy that the teams that started on different tires are doing, right? Like, it makes absolutely no sense. If a team starts on soft and you start on a medium, why are you following the same strategy that they are, regardless of whether you want the undercut or you're kind of worried about what they're. I understand track positioning and net leads and all that. I get all that. However, you're on different tires. You have the pace. You have life in those medium tires. Why are you worrying so much?
And one of the interesting things is Hamilton actually proved out that medium with a decent first stint, medium with a long second stint, soft right at the end was faster than soft at the front and two mediums. That's why he swept past Russell and was killing him at the end and ended up like 5 seconds in front of him.
Yeah.
So had they just stuck with the medium, soft strategy, which was the right strategy, and they were set up to do, they would have been 1-2.
Not only that, by the way, fire the whole damn pit team. At least for Leclerc, right? And
just bad pit stops.
Bad pit stop after bad pit stop after bad pit stop. And when do you figure that out? You see Mercedes and you see Red Bull with these 2.4, 2.5, 2.6 second pit stops. There goes Ferrari with a 3.8. There goes Ferrari with a 4.6. There goes Ferrari with another 3. I mean, this is how you ruin racing. This your race strategy. This is how you ruin, your position to be able to podium, to be on. Yeah, I don't know.
So Fernie puts a point in there. There was a third option there, which is to go medium, soft, medium. No one really did that. I don't know that was necessarily faster, and that would have. So the big mistake, and actually Hamilton kind of did the same thing. He went longer in his first stint, though. But when you're on the mediums, use the mediums up. It's always the best race tire. For them to go short on a medium stint to try and avoid being undercut by people that start on softs makes no sense. And that's that. And then Fernie's right. They could have gone soft on the middle stint, so they'd be clear to the regulations, and then finished on mediums, which would have obviously been better than what they ended up doing.
Well, any strategy would have been better than what they did.
True. But the problem with that is you then throw away your advantage because now you've got medium soft. You're going to have to pit early off those softs and go long on mediums at the end. They had set up to have an advantage of having fresh softs at the end. And you saw what Hamilton was doing at the end. Ferrari was in the same strategy as him. They set up that way. Russell started on softs. Both Red Bull started on softs. They didn't have that option. It was Hamilton, the two Ferraris, that had that option. And if you recall, Ferrari was, 10 seconds up the track from Hamilton? That's the race win.
Yep.
They were set up to do that. Now, Hamilton didn't have the pace in the car to keep up with Verstappen on the other strategy. Ferrari surely did. They just had to do it. If they just pitted the same time Mercedes pitted Hamilton, they would have won this race.
I got this question. This is absolutely spot on what Fernie said at 10:55. Before we put wired shut, how do you have the fastest car and one of the top drivers and can't deliver wins consistently? Well, when you have excuse me, when you have crappy strategies, when you have you see it, you see why they can't deliver wins consistently. You see it.
This, though, what happened with Leclerc here was so egregious because the Alpines tried to one-stop, went out on hards, and they were complete garbage. So they had evidence. They had the data that I can't use these tires. Like, hards were not an option, and they put them on anyway.
Right. And I told you immediately after you tweeted that about the hards are an issue. Right after that, five laps after, they pit Leclerc to put him on hards, and I'm like, Are you absolutely effing kidding me right now?
And
Are
they,
you kidding me?
and one of the things to keep in mind is it was cooler because it was overcast. It didn't really rain. It drizzled or whatever, but because it was overcast, the track temp was way lower. So all of their data on the tires was gone. Like, because they do it in practice and it was much hotter. So they weren't sure how they were going to perform.
Right.
But they just had to look at the Alpines. Because the Alpine has a good package and have a good car. They put those hards on there. They might as well have been a Williams. Like, they were just.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
already knew that those tires weren't going to work. That was not an option. When they, at that point, and this is where Ferrari really, and you won't see Mercedes do this, you won't see Red Bull do this. They don't trust themselves.
Right.
They were on the right strategy. Just because Max pitted early, they wanted to cover him off, and you couldn't run the softs for like 20 laps. So they basically, to cover him off, because I guess they assume, well, Red Bull must know what they're doing. No, Red Bull's on a different tire strategy. They started on a different one. Just trust your strategy. And then they didn't let Sainz run long enough on the mediums either, and they kind of put him in the middle ground, which is why by the end of the race, his softs were gone too, and Hamilton swept past him. So you lay out your race strategy and you commit to it. You have to make adjustments as the race unfolds if you need to.
Right.
But their strategy was fine.
And if you have the pace, you're the fastest. I mean, potentially you could be the fastest car on the circuit, and you're worrying about what some of the other guys are doing. Run your race, you run your own strategy, and if you, like you said, if you have to make small adjustments here and there, then that's fine. But you don't have to do these crazy ass adjustments that are going to end up screwing you over and ruining the race for both of your drivers. Which, by the way, Leclerc was obviously fastest on the track today. If you really look at it, right? Like he was.
Yeah, no, he had the race.
Blazing. Yeah, he had the race.
And this is why when Max pitted and Russell pit, and they went on to their second set of mediums, which were fine to go to the end of the race from where they were, and Ferrari had already used two mediums. All they had to do was just keep putting in those quality lap times. Yeah, they're going to close the gap some. But, 10 laps to go, we'll throw some softs on there. It'll be like 5-6 seconds.
And that's
back.
exactly what they were saying, right? Weren't they saying that on the broadcast?
Yeah, and that was the advantage. So there's two advantages to start. The reason every team usually starts on the mediums, and especially in a race like this, is the race comes to you at the end. You're faster at the end,
right?
And you're faster at the end of the first stint as well. And they blew both of those advantages with the strategy. And so, like, the reason, for example, Red Bull started on the softs is because they were back the field, and they're like, we need to get a good jump off the line, because if we don't pass some of these cars, like if you recall, like right at the start, Max passed several cars. He passed Ricciardo, he passed Bottas, he swept past them. They had to do that. If you get stuck past that and you take several laps trying to get past them, you're going to get so far past the leaders.
Right.
So they had to make that call. We got to do that. And then,
by the way, right strategy.
Well, it wasn't necessarily if Ferrari didn't screw it up. It was the right strategy for them from where they started. It wasn't the race winning strategy without Ferrari participating in that.
Right. Well, yeah.
That's where, because the optimal strategy was medium, soft, which is what Hamilton did, which is why he outperformed his car so much. It wasn't like he was faster than Russell. He just had a better strategy. Now, Mercedes chose to put Russell on the softs because they knew Ferrari would skin him off the front.
Right.
And because the Mercedes takes a little bit longer to get heat in the tires. So they were like, if we go medium, they're going to go medium. We're going to get past, which he almost did anyway. If you recall, Sainz got alongside him, even with the soft. So they were just trying to hold the lead there. But obviously the better strategy in the Mercedes was medium, soft, because that's why Hamilton ended up way in front of him by the end, passed him easily, and ended up pulling a gap in there. That was the best strategy, and Ferrari was set up for it. They earned that by having the best overall package, qualifying up the field, and then they just pissed it away. Yeah. Once they started pitting in sequence with the teams on softs, you're like, what are you doing?
Right.
You started with a better tire.
I mean, and it was so obvious too at some point, because you're like, okay, well, even the broadcast is saying, well, if Ferrari stays on these mediums, on their second set of mediums, a little bit longer, they should be able to build out a little bit more of a gap, which will help them later on with the softs, yada yada yada. And immediately after they said that, what they put Leclerc. They put Leclerc and put him on the hards, and I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense.
And he was lapping fine, yeah. Verstappen and Russell were going to be faster. They're on fresh tires, but he was
Right.
not like way off the pace where it's like, oh God, we're losing 3 seconds a lap.
Yeah, it was like he had like an 18-second
Yeah, and he
lead
was
more or
losing a
less.
few tenths, and they were
Right.
like, if we don't pit right now, he's going to come out behind Max. There were still 20 something laps left. Don't worry. Like this is where they don't have the confidence.
Right.
And you saw how long, and you
And I
see
don't
the
understand
opposite.
why you don't have the confidence. You have two of the top drivers.
It's because they don't have the. I mean, frankly, as
It's the
big
leadership.
as the brand is, they do not have a history of success.
Yep.
Other than that Michael Schumacher era where they just won every championship like every year, they have not performed up to the status of that car. And you saw the opposite with Mercedes, who has a much worse car. They did not blink. They let Lewis took the lead, stood there. Max was chasing him down, eating time up. They did not blink. They ran to the lap they needed to maximize the soft tires. I don't care what's happening behind. That's the right strategy for us. And he ends up in second. And if you think about how far ahead Leclerc and Sainz were of Hamilton on the same strategy, that's a 1-2 for them.
Right.
And instead, it ended up 4th and 6th. I will also say, like, Sainz should have been able to get past Russell with the soft tires there. That to me was that's disappointing to me.
Was it just because he had older softs on?
I don't know what happened on that stint, but he didn't, and Leclerc's lasted too. They did not like they did not come up the field.
He shouldn't have let Hamilton pass him either, right?
Well, I mean, he couldn't. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. He didn't have that pace,
right?
Right. It wasn't like he was unable to overtake Russell. He was unable to catch Russell.
Yeah.
He got within like a second and a half and couldn't get to DRS range. And same thing Leclerc, like I thought he would sweep past Perez and at least get 5th, and he just kind of stuck there. So for whatever reason, the Ferrari didn't like it worked well on the softs either.
Yeah.
But I mean that Hamilton car was working well on the softs at the end.
It was weird, man. It was weird. But look, and by the way, hats off to, of course, Max, who drove incredibly as usual. Doesn't really make any mistakes. When he does, it works out for him anyways. And the two Mercedes drove really well. Russell obviously sitting on pole, which is really good for him. And then Hamilton
I'd say sat on pole, held the race lead well, managed his race well. It was just, I mean, I do wonder, if they should have started him on softs as well. He might have competed on mediums, because they started Russell on softs, and I wonder if now he's a different driver than Hamilton. They manage tires differently, so maybe he would have struggled with that strategy. But he was in play to win this race with using medium soft. In my opinion, he had no chance being on the same strategy as Max.
Did you ever think that with both Ferraris finishing a race and not having reliability issues that they would be 4 and 6?
I mean, it's not even. I mean, what do we call this? It's not. They're unreliable generally, not just the mechanical unreliability. They got strategy unreliability.
Before we kind of finish this up, I think I have one more question, and then we can kind of talk a little bit about Red Bull, Mercedes, because obviously, I mean, but then again, it's hard not to make this about.
I mean, this is Ferrari. About look.
It's hard not to.
You have Ferrari, and you're the Ferrari fan, so it's going to look like you're talking about Ferrari. So I'll just say, when you have a team with by far the fastest car, the best package, qualified where they needed to, in control of the race up front, and they make decisions will put them 4th and 6th, that's going to be the story, regardless of who.
I agree.
Who wins.
I get it. Do you think that will there be, or does there need to be, do they need to kind of look, whoever not whoever, but I'm saying, does the team as a whole have to look and say, we need to make some drastic changes? And not the drivers. I don't think the drivers are really the issue. I know that Leclerc's made a couple mistakes here and there that have kind of screwed him over. And Sainz, I put them together. And Sainz as well. However, they haven't driven as bad as I guess it seems. Okay, they're two great drivers. They're not the problem here.
They've essentially been the opposite of Mercedes this year, in that they've minimized their point total at every single step.
Right.
And Mercedes has maximized theirs.
Yeah.
So they've kind of done the opposite. Yeah. And like you said, some of it's been mechanical failures, a couple of driver errors, but it's mostly been stuff like this. Like this is inexcusable what happened today.
It really is. It really is. Do they need to look at management and make changes? And will they?
I would say they do. Will they in the middle of the season? Probably not. But they got to look at how they're doing their race strategy. Like, this is the funny thing is, like I said, Mercedes did them a favor by starting Russell on the softs and put him on a worse strategy, and they just had to run their race. And for as much as during the they had Binotto was the guy on the pit wall they were interviewing today instead of Horner for whatever reason. So as much as they said we're not worried about Russell, we think we had the pace, they covered him off on the first pit stop for no reason.
Yeah,
they worried about the undercut and just like, no, just run your race.
I think this is a great point by Bob. Leclerc has to take chances due to his lack of trust in his team. Look, it's tricky, right? Like, that's a tricky thing, but I think that first of all, I thought he was going to go with take chances on the track. You saw he was taking chances. He was driving hard today, right? Like,
I think
when he passed George Russell,
he managed it so well. It's the most disappointing thing
really
because
did.
Russell was being a little bit of a jerk. Let's use a word that won't get us.
He was, but it was legal, right? But
it wasn't anything. It wasn't anything illegal or anything. But he was kind of intentionally, technically maybe leaving a car's width, but really kind of sliding all over in the corners to prevent getting overtaken. And unless we've talked a lot about Leclerc's immaturity and sometimes throwing things away, a less mature Leclerc would have, I'm going in anyway, and probably caused a collision. Instead, he picked his time, made a brilliant overtake, faked inside. Russell tried to cover, and then he swept around the outside. So he did all of the things. He was patient. He didn't throw it away. He didn't rush through the pass. And then he starts opening the gap up, and then they took the race from him. They took the race from him.
They really did. So we got a little bit of a break now.
Yeah.
Spa is next, right?
Yeah, Spa's next. It's like a month off, though.
August 26th, I think, is when the race is. I was just seeing it on the screen. So we've got a good 3 or 4 weeks before we get another race in. So this is, look, I guess this is the opportunity for them to make some bigger changes. And I think all the teams are obviously going to kind of sit back and look at what they do here in the
Well, they can look at certain things. They aren't allowed to really work.
Right, they can't really work.
Break,
right.
So, certainly you can have management meetings, which I think Ferrari's going to have quite a few of. I mean, I would say, like, it's multiple things. I talked about this earlier, not having confidence in your strategy. Like, they have advanced engineers and computer people that are simulating this out that generally, usually get it right. It's really hard to be this bad at strategy. And a lot of it's just indecisiveness. You saw that in the last race where, like, signs, pit, no, don't pit, wait, pit, no, don't pit. Like, just make
you saw it in this race. Didn't they ask Sainz to pit and he kept going?
Well, no, I think that was more of a try to fake. Like, I think they were trying to get Russell to think he was going to undercut Russell. So then Russell went for the undercut, but then they went and covered it for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, they were trying to get Russell out of the way so they could put in better lap times on the mediums, and then they went and pitted anyway. But so I think that's part of it. Like, trust your but they just don't appear to. I know Binotto's technically in charge. Crack the whip then. Be like, this is what we're going to be doing, and set the tone there. There's way too much, like, debate going on here and just indecision.
Right.
But at some point, They had to have seen the Alpines going really slow. If they're not paying attention to all 20 cars on the track, then I don't know what they're doing. So they must have seen that. And when you see, Max and Russell pit and you realize, oh, they're going to undercut us. And all you can do is go onto the softs or the hards, and it's too soon to go into the softs. It's not hard to say, let's just stay out. We're going fast anyway. We'll have a faster tire and a faster car at the end of the race, and we'll take advantage. Like, it's not that hard to figure it out, because that was an early second pit stop for Russell and Max because they were going for the undercut. So they had gone short on their middle stint. Let them go short on it, and it just didn't. This is true too. Like, that's part of it though. Like, how are they? And we're making light of this but. What was it in the last race where they were like on the 5th or 6th lap, and then they're like, we're on plan F. I'm like, how are you already on plan F? The hell's going on over there?
It's first of all, it sounds stupid when you hear it. It sounds stupid over the air, and on obviously for us, it just sounds like, how are you on plan F? Like, this is lap 5. Like, let's get it together. And that just to me shows the lack of leadership within within the pit wall, obviously, and just on the team as a whole. It just shows a lack of leadership, lack of of competence on what your strategy is and how secure you are with what you're gonna do. And you should, right? Like you should have that set. All right, well, if we're sitting on pole, right? If we're 1-2 or we're 1-3, this is how it's gonna be. We have
Right.
all the data we need off of FP1, FP2, FP3. Obviously rain is a deterrent, so you see, that's different if you're on intermediates or wets. However, you really didn't have that problem
No, other than
in
some
this on
sprinkles.
this
And the
race.
other
Yeah,
the other advantage they had is, so look, now with 2020 hindsight, we know, if they just followed Hamilton's strategy of run longer on the mediums, have fresh set sauce for the end. That was the fastest strategy.
right.
Because he was not the fastest driver and he ended up second with the fastest lap because of that strategy. But that's 2020 hindsight. Really the most galling thing is they had two cars up there. They're the only team with two cars right up there. They could have covered Russell off and then still run the other strategy with the other car.
Right.
No optimization strategy had you putting the hards on. They went off the grid. They went off the board, and that's what proved.
Not only that, like you said, no optimization strategy had you going off on the hards, right? And then you had even more data because the Alpines went on the hards, and you saw how
they threw their race away.
And then you still put them on the hards, like that. How is that not incompetence at its core?
Well,
to do
but
something like that?
also they knew the hards didn't work in the first place, because if the hards were a good tire, when they pit, they would have gone medium hard.
Yeah.
Why are you doing an extra pit stop then if the hards actually work?
Right.
We know they don't work.
Yeah.
Because the
hards would have worked, you could have ran the whole race with them.
Yeah, the other strategy, if the hards were actually a functional tire, is you go mediums and then you go hards, and that's it. It's a one stop.
Right.
Make everyone else stop twice. You made up the delta. You win the race. Going with the two stop involving the hards, that's what Alpine was trying to do, and then obviously the hards didn't work. But their plan was they went longest on the mediums. They were out there last, and then they went to the hards because they were like, well, let's see if we can one stop this. That's also, it turns out, because the hards were so bad that didn't work. But that's also a strategy.
Sure.
Going medium hard is, it's off the board.
It's not very smart.
It's off the board.
Smart. Look, I wish I would have won the Mega, because if I would have won the Mega, Vish, we would have tried to take at least a piece of ownership of that Ferrari team, and then I would have just put you in charge of strategy. Okay.
I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing either. All I'm saying is,
well, clearly we know a little bit more than what.
Yeah, I did kind of tweet out 10 minutes before the hards aren't an option.
The hards aren't an option.
And then okay, here we go.
Put on the hard. You know what? We saw that tweet from Vish. We're gonna put on the damn hards, and we're gonna prove them wrong. And now,
no, but I mean, they have access to the most advanced computers where they can determine things down to that's actually. I don't think it's hard to see when you're watching the race on TV, but they're literally calculating down to the millisecond. That's why they know, okay, we pit here. We're going to come out in front of this car or behind this car. So we got to pit right now, because we go one more lap, we're going to be a tenth of a second back further. We're going to come out behind that. And then we have to spend time over. They can do that level of calculation. They can't say the hards is a second off the pace.
It's ridiculous.
And I don't understand, there was some overtaking. In fact, Leclerc had already overtaken on track here, showed he could do it. So the other rationale for this is that track position is king. And so you don't want to piss away the track position. So that's another kind of potential, but in this case with all the overtaking, there was really no reason to worry about that. So really, all they had to do was just run your race. They're so frustrating.
I like what Bob says here also. Not only real-time data, which is obviously in race, but historical models on how things work and what conditions regression analysis is widely used. Yeah, good point. Absolutely. Here are the standings real quick before we get out of here.
I think these were these not
updated? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. doesn't fucking matter at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Who cares? This is probably how it's gonna look tomorrow, anyways, right? Verstappen.
Yeah, I don't think the
Uh,
order is gonna switch
yeah.
around.
So it's still gonna be Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Russell, Sainz, and then Hamilton might have gained.
Actually, this might be
Yeah,
updated because Sainz wasn't behind Russell, was he? He had passed him back after he won that race and stuff.
maybe. Yeah, I
So
think you could
I
be
think
right.
this is updated.
Okay, all right. And by the way, speaking of McLaren, because you are a McLaren fan, listen, it was a solid weekend. Well, a solid Friday and Saturday for Norris and Ricardo, who both looked pretty good. Norris, okay. Ricardo, did they both get in the points?
Ricardo got that penalty, right?
Oh, that 5 second
We
penalty.
can,
Yeah. So I'm not sure, but I think there was a little bit disappointing. I mean, it's not like we expected them to be competitive as far as for the podium. However, a little bit disappointing. Norris gave up a lot of.
yeah, Ricardo's penalty killed it.
Yeah, did it okay. But hey, Norris finishes in was it 7th?
Yep, that's it on the screen. So
Not a bad drive. Yeah,
No,
not a bad drive by McLaren.
Yeah, and importantly for them, finished ahead of the Alpines,
Right.
which is where the battle is for 4th place. So and our boy announced his retirement this week. Vettel got a point, so
he did. Good for him. My obviously my predictions didn't come to fruition. I don't think anybody's did. But
did I take Max? I don't remember anymore.
No, I didn't take Max. I took Leclerc.
Because everyone was picking Ferrari, so I was like, you know what? It's a Ferrari track, but I'll take Max. And
I took Leclerc, Max, Sainz. I know that.
Yeah. We can review this on
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay. I had Max, Checo, Hamilton.
Okay, so there you go.
That's not that bad.
Not bad. You got 2 out of 3 right.
Yeah, Moni had Sainz, Hamilton, Max. Fernie, who was in the chat, had Sainz, Max, Leclerc. Yeah.
Yeah, it hurts.
You had Leclerc, Max, Sainz.
Leclerc, Max, Sainz, yeah. Unbelievable. Which probably should have been the case. But
it should have been Leclerc, Sainz, Max. Like
right.
that. I mean, they had the better track position. They had the yeah. Okay, so Fernie is confirming this is updated, so we can we can go back to the driver standings real quick.
Driver standing.
All right, so this is updated. So it is over. That's what this is.
So this just tells us that it's over.
It's 80 points.
Yeah.
All you need is 4 DNFs and it's right back in it. I mean, that's literally he could not score points for 3 races and Leclerc could win them all and he'll still be in front. This is over.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Anyways, all right. So,
but something to watch here. The Mercedes is definitely faster than it has been, and this gap
that's closed off
because of Ferrari's somehow screwing around. It's only 30 points. There is a
wow.
There is a non-zero chance now that Ferrari doesn't even finish second in the constructors.
Right.
If they don't get their stuff together, because obviously they were still faster than Mercedes today, and they should have finished ahead of them. But we can't keep. How many times can you say that when at some points like, okay, this might actually cost them the second place because
it will.
It's 30 points. I mean, technically the constructors is still doable for them, especially if Red Bull has some reliability issues. Like you can make up 100 points in the constructors pretty easily. And actually, Mercedes being in play might help with that if they can. In particular, get in front of Checo on some of these races and push him back down to lower the total Red Bull haul. But so the constructors is still in play, but the drivers
is done.
I mean, it's easy to see that, right? Because the constructors is 97 and the drivers is 80.
Right.
So you're trying to make up 80 points with one driver and 97 with 2. Yeah, it's much more likely to be so constructors is still in play. Unfortunately, Spa's probably a Red Bull track. It's a power circuit. So
yeah. All right. Well, Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. 9:30 p.m. 8:30 is the other show.
Yeah, I mean, you can show up at 8:30.
Yeah, you can show up at 8:30. That would be fine. You'll get a great show then too. So 9:30 p.m. hitting the Apex on Wednesday night with me, Vish, and Moni. We'll break down even further
Yeah,
the,
I think one thing that we
Hungarian
don't have
GP.
now that we'd have then is, you know, have them explain what they were doing, because someone's got to explain how they went on. Like, at least, and we talked about this on the post race last week. You could sort of justify them pitting signs last week, saying like he had the 5-second penalty, so if he was not going to be able to, on those older tires, hold off for 5 more seconds, like keep the 5-second back gap, he would have finished in 5th anyway. And that was the explanation they gave after the race, and they got the fastest lap. So while we're all like, you shouldn't have hit him, at least there was an explanation. There is no explanation for going under the hards. So
Yeah.
so we're gonna have fun dissecting exactly what they were thinking.
I didn't win the lotto. I'm sorry. Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. hitting the apex here on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, smash the like button, and hopefully we'll see you
Don't
guys.
Don't smash it too
Wednesday.
hard. The Ferrari engine will let go, and then they'll have to take more penalties. So.
Yeah, maybe they'll just
lightly nudge the like button.
Maybe they'll stay too long in the pit as well. So, all right. Thank you for everybody joining the show, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Adios.